Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Thank you so much for being with us.
Congresswoman, thanks for being with us. Last time we talked, we discussed how patient progressives had been throughout this entire process. That patience didn't pay off yesterday. What's your reaction?
Well, I think what Senator Manchin did yesterday represents such an egregious breach of the trust of the president. And it's also, this is exactly why it's an outcome that we had warned about well over a month ago, about needing to plan a contingency plan for it. It's why we insisted on having the bipartisan infrastructure plan coupled and passed together with the Build Back Better Act. But I think right now we are at a juncture where it's not really about, I think, being angry. I mean, of course, we have every right to be furious with Joe Manchin, but it's really up to leadership in the Democratic Party who, made the decision to get us to this juncture and how we're going to move forward. And I think right now that Democratic leadership has a very large number of tools at their disposal, the president particularly, and it's really about time that, we take the kid gloves off and we start using them to govern for working families in this country.
Well, Congresswoman, you said yesterday that you were not upset with Joe Manchin as much as you were with Democratic leaders. And let's, as my grandmother from Dalton, Georgia, used to say, let's just take the rag off the churn. That starts with the President of the United States, doesn't it? He's the one who shook hands with Joe Manchin. They said they had an agreement on a $1.75 trillion bill, and the president told you all that you could trust him. He could bring Joe Manchin along. How do you work with the White House moving forward?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, when we were in negotiations, originally the entire country's infrastructure plan was in one bill. And this bill could be passed with all Democratic votes. It was a decision to separate these two bills and just break apart one part which was this quote unquote bipartisan infrastructure plan that has a lot of fossil fuel subsidy giveaways, of which Manchin is a known ally of the fossil fuel industry, and then separate the extension of child tax credits, separate the real actions that are going to protect us from climate change into the Build Back Better Act. Now, when that decision to separate and to advance the bipartisan infrastructure bill happened, some of us took umbrage with that. And the president did say that the the Build Back Better Act was promised, and that, he's got it. And we said, with respect to the president, no one can really promise a Manchin vote. And so we need to really figure out what the solution is, because at the end of the day, when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's, we are talking about millions of families in the United States having their child tax credits expire. The president made the announcement just this past week that he does not have an intention on extending the student loan deadline. And both of these things, in addition to the untenable situation of voting rights in this country, all three of these things are completely unacceptable. And so what we really need to do is, I think, is have folks that really, our leadership needs to step up. And I think that we can do that. I do not believe that the situation is beyond repair, but it's going to take a different kind of thinking to get out of it than it did to get into it.